is easy because, Eemaan, you even mentioned it. I know you're all readers and nerds to some degree. So could you share a good book from your current reading list? Let's start with Faiza.
Awesome. All right. So women, and I would say men, this is your number one go-to. It's called Lean In. There is some criticism about this book, saying that it's talking to privilege, but in my experience, 90% of this book is extremely accurate on how women view how we as women view ourselves and how we approach corporate growth. Also, for people for whom things go wrong frequently and who have to fix things, this is option B, also written by the same lady. So please do pick this one up too, if you like. For people who are actually in the US and are cognizant of how the society here is evolving, this is a new book that has just emerged. It's called Adrift, American 100 Charts. It's written by NYU Stern professor. So do take a look at this one if you're interested in how we are developing as a society. I have two more. These are all very, very good books because they'll spur thinking very quickly. This is Michael Crichton. He passed away a few years ago, but before he did, he wrote Travels, which is like his own personal journey. And he was also, again, someone who was mostly confused through his life. So thank you so much for writing that before you died. And then finally, this is for people who are in Karachi. This is written by my uncle. It's called Science and Sustainability. So we are all aware of what's happening in Pakistan and the recent flooding. So this book is in the Karachi University Library if you want to read it and understand what the impacts are going to be. And perhaps it's going to spur some action. So
that's awesome. Faiza, Lean In is one of my personal favorites, and one of my mentors gave it to me a while ago, and I cannot believe how much it resonates with me. So and thank you. And I've read both of those books, option B as well, after Cheryl's husband passed away when she wrote that book. So love that. Shazia, you want to go next?
Absolutely. So, Sana, if you would have asked me this question outside of this panel, I would have probably picked up any of my Sher o Shairi books. I really enjoy reading Urdu Sher o Shairi. There's infinite wisdom in it, right? About life and self-reflection. I think, but for today's discussion, I decided to pick a more relevant book that's more relevant to today's discussion. So the book that I selected today is by Dr. Seuss, and it's called The Places You Will Go. This is Dr. Seuss's last book that he ever wrote. And I just love reading it over and over and over. I think I've had it somebody gifted it to me about, 20 years ago, and I have it on my nightstand even today. जिसे हम उर्दू में आजाद नज़म कहते हैं. I think this is an Azad Nazam book. And it's really a book written for children, but it has valuable lessons for adults. Just like all the Disney movies out there, there's always a hidden message for adults in there. So this book is really for adults as well. So this poem talks about resilience, right? Having hope and ambitions in life and making tough decisions in life, which we all have to make at some point in life. It talks about the value of showing up, being there, being present. And then it also talks about the not so good things in life. And that's my favorite part. When things go wrong in your life, and we all know that happens a lot, right? The disappointments in life, the heartbreaks, the disappointments that you will have in people around you, the people you love, जिनसे आप मोहब्बत करते हैं, बाज़ दफ़ा वही आपको सबसे ज़्यादा तकलीफ देते हैं. Despite all of these roadblocks, you still have to keep going. And I think this book keeps talking about that message over and over. And that's really the true lesson in the poem. So मुझे बहुत बहुत ज़्यादा पसंद है ये किताब. For the longest time, I was gifting that. I used to buy this book in bulk, and I was gifting it to anybody on their graduation. So that would be my standard gift. और मेरा message ये होता था कि आप real life में enter होने जा रहे हैं, you've graduated, and here's a quick glimpse, by the way, of what your real life is going to look like, and of course in a light-hearted way. So उस किताब के अंदर एक बहुत famous quote है, and it says, "Remember that life is a great balancing act." So ये जो आप जिंदगी में छोटे-छोटे decisions लेते हैं daily basis पे, बड़े-बड़े decisions लेते हैं, they determine your path in life and where you're going to end up at the end of the day. So this book really captures it beautifully. It's my favorite book, and I would highly recommend reading it if you haven't read it yet.
I love that book. And yeah, I 100% agree with you. When I read it the first time for my son, I was like, this is not a children's book. this is too deep for a children's book. So excellent. Eemaan?
It's great to hear all of this. Shazia, kabhi hame session karke aapki sher o shairi sunni padegi. Would love to do that. We have to have another session, Sana, for sher o shairi.
But be careful what you ask for, because once I start, it's hard for me to stop.
Bas theek hai.
That's how passionate I am.
So yes, Sana, like you said, we're all a little bit nerdy at heart, and I love that. And I've always been, and I mentioned I like to write, but I love to read also. And one of my hobbies and passions is English literature. So I love my Chaucers and Shakespeare and Thomas Hardy's. Like, I love reading that, but also at the stage of life where I am, I don't get too much time to really get into like the Tolstoy's and all of that. But jo par liya bhi, I will reflect on that, and every now and then pick up something and reread a chapter that I love. So I enjoy reading that, but from a work sort of perspective, of course, I try to keep abreast of, trends and technologies and readings. One book that resonated with me in the last couple of years was The Power of Habit, which sort of sums up what we've been talking about: consistency, showing up. So, it's by Charles Duhigg. It's really good if you want to understand how habits can shape you and your mind. It's important, and I enjoyed that. But what I love, for most people that may not have the time to read a big book or whatever, finish it from start to end, I love this app called Flipboard. Or usme aap apni, you can curate it to your liking and pick up topics that interests you. So there's technology, there's leadership, there's women in leadership, there's raising a family, there's even cooking, home stuff. So I've subscribed to all those things. It's a free app. I mean, some publications may ask you to pay a subscription fee, but then it will curate your Flipboard to the interests that you've selected from all over the world, really. So from New York Times, Financial Times, Khalij Times, international, global magazines, se wo articles aapko bhejte rahenge us app mein, and you can literally just keep flipping, read headlines, dig deeper, and read what you really want to, and then kind of go on that path. So I love just being on Flipboard whenever I get a chance, because I don't always get a chance to just get into bed or like have a nice evening to myself where I can really enjoy reading.
Makes sense. That's really good. I also really like Atomic Habits that I read recently, and that was also very very eye-opening for me, because it was just, you put points on the board for yourself, so you show up every day, right, for what you want to do. You don't miss a day, but you can do it for 2 minutes a day, 3 minutes a day, but just show up. Kind of like what your dad said, is write a word, write a sentence. You don't have to write a page. So I love that.
Thanks. And then these days I'm reading like it's Whereabouts by Jhumpa Lahiri. And we have like these, books that we keep getting at Princeton. So it's nice. And Jhumpa Lahiri works at Princeton. So it's also nice, like, to read a book by someone who kind of works in the same community as yourself. It's really interesting because it gives, sure, these leadership books are very helpful, but sometimes reading fiction is also great, because this book has a lot of short stories about so many different characters, and all of us work with like a lot of people, and we have teams and peers, etc. So just learning about different characters helps you understand others more and at a different level.
Oh yeah.
I agree. Yusra?
Yeah, a lot of women here are so well read. I am just amazed by all the information that you all shared. I think to Eemaan's point, like, everyone navigates towards certain kinds of books, right? And I think in my case, it's generally, authors and people who talk about work and life and like how to redefine life at different steps of the way. So I'll share two that I've read and I really enjoyed. I think one of them was Thrive by Arianna Huffington. And she basically like talks about how to redefine success at different points of your life, and how she, being a fairly successful person, went through so much personally that reshaped her definition of success. So, you know, personal life is a reality. Things happen, and you know, how do you kind of reset? Is this book has laid that out amazingly. I think the second one, also fairly related, is you know, an author, someone who I follow on LinkedIn also, is Adam Grant, and one of his books. I mean, I love his inspirational quotes, and you know, that's when I started seeing like, has he written something? Let's see. And the first one I read was Think Again, by him, and I think it just resonates with the first book I spoke about. But like he talks about rethinking like the status quo and how you can adjust your life as you go along, and you know, how you can be happier at home and at work. So I love how he brings perspective into balancing the two major kind of parts of your life. So those are the two books that I really enjoyed reading. Faiza took away option B. You know, when I read that book, I was in tears by the end of it. But you know, that's one that's also close to my heart.
Awesome. So yeah, love all of the recommendations and all the books that you guys are reading. So just for everyone who's listening, we will be making this reading list and some of the resources that we discussed available to everyone. Go ahead, Faiza.
Oh, very quickly. So I really liked, Eemaan, how you brought nonfiction fiction into the mix. I'm a big fiction reader, and again, like I would recommend anything written by Crichton. Read it. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very, very good.
Awesome. All right. So this brings me to my final question. So what is the one thing you would want young women to think about? And let's start with Eemaan. Eemaan, you're on mute.
Yes, I am on mute. Great question. I think, you know, young women, middle-aged women, older women, it would sort of apply to not just women, but really all genders, is just first and foremost, be the person you are. Let's not really think about genders, because we are living in a time where gender fluidity is coming more and more to the forefront. So gender is secondary, but being yourself is primary. And then I don't also want to discount the challenges that women have. So yes, although gender is secondary, we are women, we are trying to focus on the work we're doing, do the best we can, regardless of the gender. But also, you know, something that I have shared, but I want to emphasize that women leaders are generally known to be more empathetic, more kind, more compassionate. Capitalize on those qualities. These are the qualities we can really capitalize on and lead with more of an impact. And then we've all seen and experienced, and there's so many others like us, कि हम घर को और family को और काम को सबको साथ साथ चला सकते हैं. I think that's a great quality that is in us inherently. So just kind of capitalizing on those things and feeling proud of being a woman, right? It's time to sort of, when I think of like, oh, what advice do I give for women? I'm like, the first thing is like, oh, it's great being a woman. Be proud of that, own it. Mm-hmm. And that, like Yusra had said, I mean, even at Princeton University, you know, I am the first Pakistani Muslim woman to be in a technology leadership position. And I'm really proud of that. So men have done a lot. Women are doing it now. So we're in a really good time where we can really prove ourselves and do better in any sphere of our lives that we choose to. Again, I mean, one of you had mentioned, it's our career, we own it. How do we want to put it forward? We own it. We want to shine the best light on it, and we are, and we'll continue to do so.
Awesome, great answer. Shazia?
So Sana, the first thing, you know, that comes to my mind when I'm talking to young women specifically is, you know, I see them being afraid a lot. And I'll go into a little bit of detail in that. Don't be afraid, you know, lose your fears, especially your fear of failure and fear of rejection. So I think people, you know, women coming from our background, from Pakistan, you know, with our pressures from our culture, from our society, हमारा सबसे बड़ा मसला ये होता है कि we become our own biggest critics. We become so hard on ourselves, or we give ourselves a very hard time. by putting extra pressures on us. So along the same lines of what Eemaan said as well, मैं अपनी मिसाल जैसे देती हूँ, and again I'm talking about myself as of today, not my younger self back from 20, 30 years ago. Today, if I see a job posting out there, where I just basically know about 40 to 50% of the job description, I'm comfortable with it. The other 40 to 50, I haven't even, I'm not familiar with. In today's world, I will still go ahead and apply to that job. My younger self, I think, back in the day would have talked me out of applying to that job, and I would have rejected myself before I even gave the chance of anybody else rejecting me. So in my mind, this is what I tell myself. I tell myself, okay, I'm going to apply to this job, for example. What is the worst thing that's going to happen? The worst thing that's going to happen is that they will say no. And what is the better thing that can happen? On the flip side, they may say yes, and I could have a chance at that job. So really the most important lesson I've learned for myself, and that I want others to think about also, is to not be the one rejecting yourself. Let others do it, right? Others can reject me, but I will not reject myself. And at the end of the day, just, as a continuation of the same message, just be kinder to yourselves. I don't think women, with all of these pressures, we are too kind on ourselves. But, Pakistani women, we just make it hard on ourselves. We have so many family pressures, family, bache, husband, work, society, khandan, friends. And another thing I really want to add to this is, young women and anybody really out there, they should really find something that they call their own. हम सबके पास job है, हमारे सबके बच्चे हैं, husband है, parents हैं, work है, friends हैं, so many other things going on in our lives. Lekin you have to find something that you can call your own. कोई hobby हो, कोई activity हो, anything that really makes you feel content at the end of the day, makes you happy, makes you feel good about yourself. Because at the end of the day, that's really what a good life is all about, living a good life.
And that's a great answer. But if I may quickly add one more thing, Shazia, when you were talking, I thought of it. As women, and Pakistani women especially, we are trained to deprioritize ourselves. And that's the best thing you can do for your family and your husband. And a lot later in life, just a few years ago, I'm like, no, I need to also prioritize my life. There's something I want to do also. Maybe I don't want to do something, but we are so used to just going with the flow, and, sacrificing means you're like amazing. It really doesn't. Just stand up for yourself, even within your own family, and do what you want to do every now and then. It's important to prioritize yourself.
Absolutely. Sacrificing is glorified, I think, in our culture. Aapne apni job chhod di because, for whatever reason, even though you are very passionate about your job. So it kind of kills you on a daily basis inside. Magar, on the face of it, you are making a sacrifice and trying to keep everybody around you happy. So, that doesn't make for a good life, because that's really not what it's about.
Yeah, it's all about balance, right? Keeping the balance. Don't be an extremist in either case, and just find that happy place.
Absolutely.
And it's different for different people, right? So everyone has kind of what they're passionate about, right? So some people may be passionate about work, some people may be passionate about raising a family, and that's absolutely fine. But what I think what both of you said, which is really important, is let's not fall for the trap of what that perfect woman sort of looks like. And a woman who isn't happy, or a person who isn't happy, who's raising a family, she can't fill from an empty cup. So you have to at some point take care of yourself and make sure that you're okay before you're looking out for everyone else's needs. All right, so lovely conversation. I think with this, we're ready to wrap up this session. So ladies, thank you very, very much. It was an absolute pleasure. We appreciate your time, your participation, all this good content. And I look forward to continue to see great things from you in the future. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
So take care, everyone. And until next time.